Hello. So today I'm doing a video, continuing doing videos on games that I own that haven't played. This one is Tribbles, the Customizable Card Game. I think my son got me this game. I'm sure he got it used somewhere. He got it for me probably 8 years ago, something like that. And I put it in the closet, just never pulled it out and looked at it. So I did that recently, and going to tell you a little bit what I think about it. I'll tell you what comes in the box. This is the rule sheet. You get a little score pad, pencil, and then you get 4 decks of cards with different colors. Here there's green, blue, red, and yellow. So each player will get a different deck. And the different decks specialize in a certain tribble icon, I guess. You have, the red deck is called the poison deck. The green deck is called the go deck. The blue deck is called the rescue deck. And the yellow deck is the discard deck. And these cards that come with it, tell how many of each card are in the deck. Each deck has a varying amount of cards, actually, which I'm not sure the reasoning on that, but you can see blue has 26 cards, green has 27, red has 29, and yellow has 30. And this says it's a customizable card game, so I guess there were like booster packs you could buy to change up your decks, or it says you could buy other core boxes and interchange cards from that. So I don't know if the different core boxes came with different cards, or if it just means you can add more of a certain type of card out of the core box. I do get from reading this that the booster packs had some additional types of cards, though I'll just state part of my opinion about this game now, that I doubt very many booster packs or additional packs were sold. As to me, this is kind of just a fancier Star Trek themed Uno. So let me give you a little bit idea how the game is played. So the object of the game is, here it says in how to win, it says the tribbles are breeding like crazy. You score points by getting all the tribbles out of your hand. If you have the highest score at the end of 5 rounds, you win the game. So each player gets a reference card, which I kind of showed for their type of deck, and then one of these cards that shows what some of the special powers on each card are. So you give that to each player, and each player chooses a certain type of deck, either the blue, green, red, or yellow. And to see who goes first, you cut and you look at the amount of tribbles up at the top. The player who gets the highest amount, like that's 10,000, will go first. So the amounts are 1, 10, 100,000, and 10,000. Then you'll reshuffle your deck, and each player will draw 7 cards. So after each player has drawn 7 cards into their hand, the person who got the highest score, when they were cutting to see who's first, will go first. And they will choose to play, they have to start with a number 1 tribble. So you'd put in your, say, red, this is the red player. If he decided he's going to play, he has to start with a 1. Then the next player would have to play a 10, as that's the next highest here. So, this guy would play a 10, and the next guy would have to play 100. So let's say the yellow player over here, he's got a 100 tribble card right here. So he puts that in his play area. Finally, we come back to this guy. He's got to play a 1,000. Now, the blue player doesn't have a 1,000, so what he can do is draw a card, and if it's in a 1,000, which it just happens to be, he can then play it, and it goes to the next player. Now, if this player drew a card and it wasn't a 1,000, he has to add that card to his hand, and then he passes. And then it comes to the next player, who can then go ahead and start over with a 1 again, or he can play the 1,000 that the previous player was unable to play. The other thing about these cards, when you play, like the 1 or 10 or 100, 1,000, you can also, when you play it for this special power or special icon. So when you play it, if you're going to use that, like when he played this 1, he could say 1 go. Well, go means he can play again. So if he had the 10, he could then say, okay, 10 poison. And the poison allows you to make another player take a card from, like this player here, take a card from his draw pile and put it into his discard pile. And other icons available are reverse, which that's just like Uno. It just reverses the play back the other way. Skip skips the next player. Go, like I said, you get to take another turn. Discard lets you choose a card in your hand and put it in your discard pile. Poison, like I already said, you can choose another player. They have to take a card out of their draw deck and put it in their discard pile. Rescue allows you to look through your discard pile and recover a card. And you can, if it's playable, you can go ahead and play it, or you can put it on the top of your draw deck. And then clone, it allows you to, when it has the same number of tribbles as the last card played, you can play it. So like it says here, for example, a 10,000 clone is playable if the previous number of tribbles was 1,000 or 10,000. So if the previous card played was a 1,000, then you would need to play a 10,000, which that's what it is anyway. But if the previous card played was a 10,000, you could still play the clone as a 10,000, and then the next player would need to play a 1. So like Uno, you keep going, each player trying to play cards from their hand and empty their hand of the last player, or the player who goes out by playing the last card in their hand says they're out, and then they get to score the cards that they've played. So you add up the number of tribbles that you've played, and you score that and write it on your score pad. The other players don't get to score anything. So then after you've written the score of the player that scored that round, then all players get to put all players that had cards remain in their hand, put them in their discard pile. And then any cards that were in your play pile that you played that round, go back into your draw deck and you shuffle it up and start another round. And you play a total of 5 rounds, and then whoever has the highest score wins. Now, one thing, if during a round you never need to draw a card from your draw pile, and you can't, because your draw pile is empty, then you're decked, and then you're immediately out of the round, and you discard your hand and sit out the rest of the round. And if that happens, you're probably going to be out, pretty much out of the game, because you won't have many cards other than what you've played to draw for the next round anyway. So if you ever go through your whole deck, you're going to be in a pickle. So as you can see, it kind of is just a fancy Uno. Now, one of the things that is kind of interesting, if you're a Star Trek fan, each one of these cards has a little Star Trek information here. Like this one says, although World War II veteran James Doohan usually concealed his combat wound, this scene provides a rare glimpse of his missing finger shot off in the 1945 invasion of Normandy. And you can see that. So each of these cards has kind of a little tidbit. This one says, between takes of the Trials and Tribulation scene, actor Alexander Siddig, Julian Bashir from Deep Space Nine, joked, I got the feeling there's a big cat somewhere around coughing these things up. So that's probably, to me, the most interesting thing. Being a Star Trek fan, that's probably the most interesting thing to me about this game. But otherwise, it's kind of just Uno. I mean, if you want to play something with your kids and they enjoy Uno, they probably would enjoy this. I can kind of go through a little bit of a round. I put my little card holders out of the way since they were kind of blocking the light. But all right, well, we'll just say the blue player is first player. So he's going to play one skip. Now, if you don't say the icon, then you're just playing it for the number and you're not playing the icon power or whatever. But so if I was going to play this to skip the next player, I would say one skip. So the red player would get skipped, come to the green player. Now he's got to play a 10 if he has one. And he does not appear to. So then he can draw, and he doesn't get a 10, so he passes. So we're still looking for 10 from yellow. So, but since the previous player passed, he can play a 1 if he wants to. And he'll just go ahead and play a 10, and he'll say 10 go, because then he can play 100. So then he'll play 100 poison, and we'll say he wants to poison the blue player. So the blue player has to discard the top card of his deck, and the player that played the poison gets the amount of points on that card. So the yellow player down here who played the poison would get to write in his score up here 10,000 because he would have that. So now he played the 100 poison, so now that comes over here to the blue player who now needs to play 1,000. So he's going to play 1,000. Rescue would allow him to draw a card out of his deck if he wanted to, but he's just going to say 1,000. So now red player finally gets to play, and he needs a 10,000, and he has one. So he plays 10,000. Now the rules don't actually say it, so I just assume that it now goes back to 1 again. So green over here would need to play a 1. So he plays a 1 go because he thinks he has a, well, I better make sure I've got a 10 before I say go. And I do not. So he doesn't play go. He just says 1. So he just plays the 1. So now yellow over here needs a 10. And he doesn't have, so he draws. And he didn't get one, so he has to pass. But that gets added to his hand. And we come back over here to blue, who now, since the other guy passed, he can play a 10 or a 1. So he'll do a 10 poison, and he'll poison yellow back for poisoning him. So now yellow has to put a card in his discard, which it happens to be a 10,000. So then blue would get to write 10,000 points up there in his score. And now I would come back here to red's turn, and he would need 100 since blue played the 10 poison. So he would say, 100 reverse. And now it would go back to blue, who would now need 1,000. And he's 1,000, okay, reverse again. So now it goes back this way. And he would need a 10,000. Anyway, and that's how it goes until somebody actually plays the last card in their hand. Whoever plays the last card gets to add up the total. So you'd like to play a lot of 10,000s into your play area because you get to add the total of the cards you played, and then that's your score for the round. Nobody else scores. Then any cards in your hand go into your discard pile. Any cards you played go back into your deck. You shuffle those, draw another 7 cards, and start another round. Play 7 rounds, or 5 rounds. The person with the high score is the winner. And that is Tribbles, the customizable card game. So, hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.